For the agent that must be in the know, Medicare Industry Insider discusses critical insight, noteworthy trends, and upcoming issues in the Medicare market.
Deciphering and debating the legislation, regulation, and what's happening in the market. I'm Chalen Jackson.
And I'm Rachel Bremeyer, and we're going to talk shop, dive deep into these complex topics, and make them understandable and actionable.
If you've ever wondered where the world of Medicare is going and how to prepare for the future, Medicare Industry Insider is the resource you've been looking for.
I'm Rachel Bremeyer.
And I'm Chalen Jackson.
And today we are going to talk about the business you didn't mean to start. What we mean to say is that as an agency, when you start, even if you look historical, and we'll go into a lot more, you would start and you would just get your life and health. And like that's a lot of people, that's all they think of when they think of starting a business in the Medicare industry. But as we go into detail, you'll see there's a lot of things that you didn't realize your jobs were going to be as you get a little bit deeper into growth, into adding more clients, and basically you end up doing things that you had no idea were part of your job description. So we're going to jump into the business you didn't know you were starting.
Absolutely. And I think you brought up a really good point. You know, a lot of people, when they start out in this industry, they definitely don't start out thinking of it as a business. Maybe they start out working for a captive shop or for a carrier even, or even if they go in the independent route, they really don't think of it so much as a business, so much as a job or a career. And that's a perfectly fine way to start out thinking about it. You know, we've all heard the stories from back in the day. You didn't actually even have to have your license yet to start being an insurance agent. You had 90 days to actually pass your license exam from the time you got that provisional license back in the day. But even now, the extremely low barrier to entry to the insurance business has made an incredible career choice for a lot of people to find a lot of upside potential and create really long and sustainable careers. But it has also made it really easy for people to forget they're running a business. And I think that's the biggest thing that we want to talk about today, because at some point, if you find any level of success, and obviously a lot of people do, you're going to find yourself constantly just struggling to keep your head above water if you can't make that decision. And it has to be, in my opinion, a conscious decision to be a business owner and not just an insurance agent. You're going to find yourself in that situation. And the decision is between coasting and growing. Mm-hmm. And whether or not, you know, some people want to coast. Some people want to say, I need this many policies to be happy. That's the kind of life I want now and in the future. And I'm just going to coast. So I think that's the big thing, is if you're in that coast mindset, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. I would still recommend some great business building tools to make sure that coasting can be sustainable. But you're going to have to make sure that coasting is going to give you the kind of life that you want for yourself and your family. And if you plan to grow, we've got a lot of things you should be hearing here very soon.
Yes. So one of the things that that you and I have both run into is agents calling us up and saying, okay, something's got to change, especially after AEP, especially after a busy season. Something's got to change. I'm running ragged. I'm exhausted. I don't have enough time, energy, effort to do this again next year. And usually the next step is, and a lot of times those people are anywhere between, I would say, 300 to 500 clients. That's when people start getting a little bit tired, frustrated, exhausted, breaking promises even because they don't have time. So what we usually end up going to is systems and processes or people. So when you hire people, it's definitely something that people usually don't think about it until you're already getting to the point where you're run ragged. So looking for people before you actually need people is definitely recommended. It's basically relocating your time. It's changing, your time is going to be spent more on training. Maybe it's an admin, or maybe it's a LOA agent, even a sub agent. But whatever the direction is, you have to think about your time going backwards a little bit, because you're sitting there training that person, you're getting them up to speed, you're getting them to recognize your style of doing business and what your brand is, because they're a reflection of your brand. And I think part of the reason a lot of agents get into business is because they like doing things themselves. Yeah. So to offload it to someone else is a little difficult too. So I think taking a big step back and reflecting on yourself of like, okay, what am I comfortable offloading, and am I giving them the autonomy to learn and do things so that they can get there, or am I hovering? Because I think that's another strong strong suit of agents is that they are, very good at doing things themselves. And that's why you went into business by yourself. You're a good multitasker. You're good at creating a brand and a recognition. And it's hard to let someone else be a part of that brand.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the biggest things is by hiring when you want to instead of hiring when you need to, it allows you to make better hiring decisions. You can look around for more ideal candidates rather than just trying to, stop the bleeding, so to speak, of your operational sanity. But the other thing, the biggest mistake I see agents make from a hiring standpoint is ending up net zero. So at first, what I want everyone to realize is if you're saying, hey, I'm stressed, I'm overworked, I've got 600 clients, I don't know what to do with all of them, I need to hire an admin or whoever, you can't just dispense with the time you're spending. So let's say you're working 75 hours a week right now, and I hope you're not, but if you are, and you hire an admin to take over 30 hours a week, even just part-time, of helping you manage your book of business, the biggest mistake I see from agents is all of a sudden they go, I've got this help, I can take a breather, I can go back to working 40 to 50 hours a week, and then they wonder why they're losing money. It sucks, but at first, hiring someone doesn't mean getting to work less. If anything, it means working harder at different things. If you're not still working that 75 hours, but reallocating your time to money-making activities, you're going to find your balance sheet looking a little more uneven because you are spending time training that person. You are spending time making sure they know what they're doing and are effective at the job you're giving them. But if you're not taking as many hours as they took away from you, so 20 hours a week of admin work, 10 hours a week of sales work, if you're not taking those hours and reallocating them to the more ways you can make money, you're going to see a net loss. And it doesn't mean it has to be that way forever, because eventually you can help other people multiply their efforts on your behalf. But at first, it means working harder than you've worked up to this point to get to the point you can take a break.
Yeah, and I've seen a ton of agents when they'll ask me like, okay, I'm there, I can't do this, I need to hire someone, and then they call up and they're shocked that they've lost $10,000 that year over year. And you're completely right. It's because they were probably working harder, if not, they were allocating their time differently. Sure. So they hired someone, and then you also have to think about you're trying to get that person up on their feet too. So you're open to asking questions, answering questions, spending a lot of time and effort that you would have been doing money-making activities with, now sitting with that person and helping them get to where you expect them to be. So it's definitely, I've run into that so many times. So that's a really good point.
And a lot of it's a timing issue because, so we're recording this right before Christmas 2023. I forget when this is going live, but we're recording it at the end of the year, post AEP. Everyone's starting to think about what went wrong, what went well. Right now, today is the time to start your hiring process. Mm-hmm. Way too many agents wait until August or September to hire someone, maybe even thinking about it being a temp for AEP, and then they wonder why they lost money because you gave yourself no time to get that person up to speed, familiar with your systems and processes, familiar with the tools that you use on a daily basis. You spent all that time that you should have been prepping for AEP, training them. They're probably still not trained up to your standards, which means you're constantly checking their work, and then you're trying to manage AEP on top of that. You didn't do yourself any favors. Hire someone in March, January, February, March. Q1 is a great time to hire people. They can help you do all your AEP follow-ups, all that OEP work, help you set up the rest of your year. That way they've got a lot of time to learn those systems and processes. So by the time October 1st rolls around, you've got a well-oiled machine running again, and it's actually going to be worth the time and money you've put into training this person.
I always recommend too, that's a really good point. I recommend sitting down and writing down all the things that don't make you money that you don't enjoy doing. Yep. Eventually you want to offload even the things that you do enjoy doing, but that's a really good place to start on like activities that person could be doing, because really the only thing that makes you money is networking and sitting in front of a client and making a sale. So if it's not one of those two things, then what are those activities that you do in your day-to-day that you could potentially offload?
Yep. And like you said, as you get bigger and bigger or better and better at delegating, some clients don't make you money to sit in front of.
Mm-hmm.
So you find someone else to sit in front of them. But yeah, at first, definitely focus on those money-making activities. And I think one of the mistakes that a lot of agents make early in their career is they go into this business and they go, I'm going to do something that sets me apart or makes, is a difference maker. Some reason someone wants to work with me compared to Joe down the road or something like that. And in a lot of cases, the things agents choose aren't actually that big of a difference maker. And all it ends up doing is creating inefficient systems that are not sustainable. So I get how important it can seem to do 100% handwritten by you, thank you notes, birthday cards, things like that. It's not that those don't matter to clients, but it does not, and I can tell you this after working with thousands of agents with thousands of different operational structures, it doesn't make as big a difference as you think it does in terms of long-term growth at scale.
And I think, like a birthday card maybe 10, 20 years ago would have made a difference, but that's not it. Things have shifted a lot in the industry. And I think, everyone has a trash can in the garage, and as they're walking in, they're tossing things. So it might not even make it to the house. So is it worth handwriting a note, or can you offload it? Maybe the note, the thought is what you want to portray. So taking a look at like different companies that you could send things out in bulk, or that you may be able to one-off, and there's even companies that make it look like your handwriting, but it takes 2 seconds to fill that out, push submit, and it's going to that client where it would have taken you 10 minutes to write that thank you note. Then you had to stamp it and walk it out to the mailbox. So little things like that, if the thought is what you want to portray, maybe there's we talked about systems and processes and people, different way to make that system a little bit more efficient. Speaking of systems and processes, we've even talked about in-person versus virtual. Now that the world shifted, especially since COVID, I think a lot more people are very okay with making decisions over the phone, or even making decisions, online now. I pay for a lot of things online that maybe I've never talked to someone. I did that actually with our lawn service. I went on and it was like a simple little survey I filled out. And then I got a little email back, and then I got the phone number of the person, and I've been texted. I've never actually met the owner or talked to the owner, but like we've had countless conversations back and forth via text. But making decisions, sometimes that's, if being face-to-face is something that you pride yourself on, I think it's still important to at least meet that person at least once. But there's a different time of the year. AEP should not be a time where you meet people face-to-face. If you were slammed, face-to-face, you've got the first 3 quarters of the year to like spend time with them, get to know them, do those face-to-face meetings. So if that's important to you, maybe taking a look at the time of the year and when you can and when you can't. I think the biggest thing where people run into it is they will tell their clients, I will always meet with you face-to-face. I will always send you a thank you note. I will always do this. So be very careful with making promises that you can't keep when you're scalable. So everything you do, you have to be able to think like, 10 years down the road, will I still be able to do this?
Well, and like the good number I like to throw at people is just, okay, you're setting this up as one of your systems, an expectation for your clients. Can you do it 1,000 times during AEP?
Mm-hmm. Very good point.
And unless the answer is 100%, yes, I can do that 1,000 times during AEP, it's probably a bad expectation to set if you have any desire to scale your business in any meaningful way. And I think that's one of the biggest kind of flaws that I see a lot of agents built into their business is this idea that they need to see every single client every year. And as much as we want to touch base with folks, as much as we want to cross-sell, as much as we want to get referrals, and that's one of the biggest excuses. I've got to see my people. That's how I get my referrals. Create better systems. People can give you referrals without sitting across the table from you. People can give you referrals through a phone call, through an email introduction.
There's even systems now that will email them
through
for
surveys, things like. There's a million ways to do it. So don't use that as an excuse. What we know for a fact is that on an average year, less than 15% of Medicare beneficiaries change their plan year over year. Mm-hmm. You don't actually need to meet with every single one of your clients every year. Doesn't mean you shouldn't check in on your high need people, your A-list clients that have traditionally sent you a ton of referrals or are a center of influence or something like that. Doesn't mean you shouldn't take care of people that need it. But what you should do is the other 9 months of the year, be creating systems that help you identify who those people are that you'll actually need to see every year.
I don't think it hurts to have touch points. You like think in that your meeting with everyone is different than like getting in front of your client. So if there's different ways to get in front of your client, just to remind them who you are and think outside the box. Like there's plenty of agents who are very influential in their community and do things like state fair booths or sponsor, the hot air balloon festival or, maybe it's a chili cook-off for the local senior center. Or just being involved in your community sometimes can pay off tenfold compared to like things that maybe cost more than you think it should, such as, maybe you think it's important to send newsletters postage is getting more and more expensive. We've had a lot of people pivot to emails. So maybe it's just reminding your clients I'll be communicating with you via email. So there's definitely different ways to look at like, is what you're doing cost effective and is it getting the same impact that you want it to be getting? So
yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think the same can be said of, like we said, setting bad expectations, keeping promises that aren't sustainable. The other thing I see people constantly make is kind of rash decisions in the form of bad investments in their business, whether it's, some local marketing guru talked you into a bad marketing plan that you spent a ton of money on and ended up not panning out, or whether it is not just working the system that you have and continuing to make that work for you and trying to totally change gears. A big one that I see a lot is people trying to diversify their product lines too fast. If you're focused on the Medicare industry, Medicare prescription drug plans, Medicare Advantage, MedSup, cancer, dental, ancillary, it doesn't mean you need to go out and start doing P&C tomorrow. Dig deep, then go wide. They
have different doctors that are specialists for a reason.
Absolutely. So. It doesn't mean that kind of product-based diversity can't be a good way to grow your business someday. But you really, really need to focus your time in a way that is efficient and effective for you. If the answer to your problem is, I need to spend $50,000 this year on a good, well-trained administrative person, don't instead spend that money somewhere else. Or don't think you can get a deal by spending $10,000 on a new CRM when what you really just need is someone to actually put stuff in the CRM you have. Things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point of just like looking through systems and processes, looking through people, and then keeping promises and keeping the integrity of your brand through the process. I even had a person the other day ask about a virtual assistant or someone that they can just hire. That for me just hurts your brand, having someone that you didn't train that is now talking to your customers. So just taking a look at your business, that's an example of it maybe not being the right system or process. There's a lot of different leads out there. There's a lot of different systems and processes. The things that I think I've seen over and over pay off tenfold is just being a pinnacle in your community, your local community, and all like whatever that means, being involved in doing things that you enjoy doing. If it's running bingo night one night, if it's delivering Meals on Wheels, if it's doing something that people see you out in your community and you're investing time with other people, that will do nothing but enhance your business because you become a part of the community. People start getting to know you. And that also means with your people that you take care of. If you're hiring, you're now a business owner. You own people. You own the ability to pay someone and affect their career too. So thinking through like, how do you want that to look? Do you want it to look like a part-time person or is it full-time? Are you adding benefits? Are you doing all the things that a business owner needs to do to keep and make sure that the person's happy? Because that person then can go out and either speak very highly of your company or opposite. So everything you're doing, everything you're touching is a reflection of you as a business owner.
Yeah. Well, and I know we kind of talked about, this business you didn't mean to start. You didn't realize all the jobs you were applying for.
We made a beautiful list of all the jobs.
In fact, all the jobs you didn't know you applied for when you signed on the dotted line and got that insurance license. If you continue to grow, and I certainly hope you do, and I hope we can be there to help you with that. But as you continue to grow, you're going to find a lot more jobs that you never applied for, including things like being a bookkeeper and being your own IT person. Janitor.
Taking the trash out, literally.
Yeah, taking the trash out. One of the biggest ones. And you know, some of these are a little tongue in cheek. Yeah. You might, maybe you've got an office and you've got janitorial services, or maybe, you know, you work from home and that's always been the case. But things like HR, if you're bringing someone on, whether it's an agent, a downline, an admin person, you have some, you know, I don't want to scare anyone into avoiding that situation, but I think you should also take seriously your legal obligations as an employer and the appropriate practices with hiring someone, firing someone, handling payroll, you know, managing performance, dealing with retention and benefits. There's a lot that goes on with being a business owner. You're a property manager potentially. You've got an office. Maybe you own it, maybe you rent it, but now you've got to be an interior designer. You've got to make sure that your space is, you know, aesthetically accommodating to your clientele and also safe for people to visit you. You're dealing with a lot of senior citizens, potentially a lot of Medicare beneficiaries that may have mobility issues. So you've got to watch out for slip and fall hazards. You've got to watch out for, you know, making sure that your furniture is easily cleaned, making sure you've got levered, you know, door handles instead of door knobs that can be difficult with arthritis. So all those odd little things that come along with property management.
And then on top of that, you're a marketing person or an advertising department, whatever direction you want to go. You're either outsourcing, you know, the branding and having someone else design it, or you're designing it yourself. But regardless, you're then in charge of keeping up with trends, making sure that you know about any legal marketing compliance things. You've got like the TCPA, you've got lots of disclaimers you have to be worrying about. And then on top of that, just keeping in check with all the trends that CMS is also requiring of people when they do market as well. And then, of course, all state-specific things, like some states require you to put your license number on the pieces. So keeping up with trends, not only on compliance side with marketing, but also with trends in marketing in general, like what's changed. A lot of people now are, you know, 20 years ago would have been a lot of mailing pieces. I think now it's shifting a lot more to social media, and even like the big ones like billboards, I think are still doing good in smaller towns, but just keeping up with trends with what are people paying attention to, which I think is, we talked about in a previous episode of like different things an FMO can help with. And that is definitely something an FMO can help with, all of those. You're also the local volunteer, which means that you're helping with all the charity things. You're being involved in your community.
Getting hit up for donations
getting
all
hit up
the
with
time.
donations. On top of that, your claim support. When your clients call back in, if they've used their plan, they want to figure out why they got billed for something they shouldn't have gotten billed. So now you're on the phone with the insurance carrier and taking time doing that. There's so many jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. Training, recruiting. You're, you know, maybe you're the contractor and handyman if you've got an office space that you have to manage and upkeep. You know, you are your own CRM and data manager. Have to keep all your own records, audit your compliance. It's being a business is about being responsible for something bigger than yourself. We don't necessarily all start out that way, but if you achieve some kind of reasonable success, your business is going to start to take on a life of its own. And it's really a lot like having kids. Your role as the business owner becomes one of nurturing and development, making sure that the time you spend with your business is meaningful and that it leads to building something that can live without you in the long term. No one necessarily wants to think about quitting their business or, you know, passing on, but regardless, whether you plan to pass your business down to someone else, sell your business, or just ride it off into the sunset, at the end of the day, the goal should be to create something that can exist without you. If you're not replaceable, you're not promotable, which also applies to retirement. If you're not replaceable, you're not retirable. So make sure that you're building a business that someone else can be dropped into and find success, or you're going to be building a business that's going to be difficult to get out of if you someday want to.
100%. And we unfortunately hear about that more often than we should, which is people not wanting to retire because that's what brings them joy. That's what they did every day. They never thought they would retire. But part of that is because they feel like they can't retire because they never created a plan to retire. So I think that's spot on of like taking a look at your processes, your systems, your people, and building it so that it can exist without you, regardless of how you get out, whether it's death or retirement, whether you want to or not, it'll eventually happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's the trademark pending, I guess. There's I kind of came up with a little 3-step process. If you're looking at building your business, there's 3 key things I want you to remember, and that's sustainable, scalable, and saleable. And really looking at building your business with those 3 things in mind.
Yeah, so I think just to go in a little bit more detail on that, because I think the 3 S's are great. Sustainable, it's meaning repeatable, it's trainable, and it's not breakable. So basically, can you teach someone your way? Can you put someone into your spot and they can learn from you and create, and basically either create what you currently have created and like grow from it. Basically, can you repeat what you had created initially?
And I think one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of agents make, especially early in their career as a business owner, once they make that decision to be a business owner, is they don't do that introspection and look at how have I found success. Write down your processes and systems, write down how you handle a client meeting, even the silly little things that you do so intuitively now. If you're not able to teach someone how to do it your way, you really need to understand your own success a lot better, in my opinion. If you have ever had someone ask you, well, how do you do this? And your response has been, well, I just do it. Then you don't understand your own success well enough to teach it to someone else. So to have that introspection, have that ability to pass on that knowledge to someone else. And part of that is just making it trainable, systematizing everything so you can teach it to someone else. And in a perfect world, turn it into pieces. Turn it into pieces so that as you scale, if you're 10 times the size your business is today, understand that you may need different people to do different things. So by taking your success and systemizing it into different chunks, it allows you to create new roles within the company that you don't yet have, that right now just may be part of your job description or part of your one admin's job description.
We
But
joke in our
eventually-
company that it takes 3 people to replace one job that you have. So like
Sure.
you just said, that person might have 4 or 5 different jobs. It might be that one little piece of your job might have 3 people in it in the future, but that frees up your time to do what you want to do. We always talk about like how that looks very similar to like a doctor's office. When you go to the doctor's office, the doctor is not answering the phone and scheduling your appointments. They're not taking your blood pressure and your height and weight. Those are different people. So if there are things that you do, you could offload the things that don't make money. So it's a nice way to like kind of wrap your head around like the future and the scalability of what you could potentially create.
Yeah, and realizing that sustainability also includes being a little bit anti-fragile or unbreakable, I think you said. Making sure that you're building a business in a way that prioritizes operational diversity in a way that helps you weather market and regulatory changes, because stuff changes all the time. And if you're building a one product, one lane, one source of referrals and new clients business, you're one bad thing away from being out of business. So making sure you're looking at where your clients come from, how you work with those clients, how, what products you're offering those clients, making sure that the answer to all of those questions is never only one thing. You have multiple avenues for each step in your business.
And I think you mentioned a really good one is saleable. So like making sure that one of the biggest things we've always joked on is some people are filers and some people are pilers, meaning that you just have piles of paper in your corner everywhere. We had one just recently, an agent whose family came to us and thought this agent had hundreds of people on their books because of the amount of paperwork that was in his office. Come to find out, a lot of it was just paperwork from people who maybe had passed away, or there was nothing that they could even look at to figure out how to sort through and figure out exactly who their clients were. So if you're not keeping good records and doing a lot of back-end support and basically making sure that your company is ready to sell, then when you come time to sell, to get out of the business, or maybe have some sort of mental decline or pass away, whatever the situation might be, it's putting your family in a situation where they're trying to figure it out. And if it's not easy, then it's probably not gonna happen, unfortunately. So I think I love the way that you described it as like 100 years from now, like could someone continue to work this business, because that's a huge part of it, is just keeping everything clean.
And and again, I realize a lot of this is, well, I'm never going to do that, or I don't want that. Listen, make choices while you can, or someone else will have to. That's what all this comes down to, is eventually someone, and it might be you that's forced into a corner, but it's probably more likely to be your family, your business partner, someone like that. They will have to make the choices that you refuse to make. So don't put that on them. Figure it out. Set everything up properly. Make it to the point where, if someday you do need to or want to sell your business, that it's actually possible. Because if all you have is old paper records and things written on Post-it notes and shoved in manila folders, it doesn't mean you can't sell your business, but it's going to limit the number of people willing to take a look at it. Because some folks aren't going to be willing to take a look unless it's digitized and ready to go and easy to evaluate.
And if all else fails, does your beneficiary, the person who is in charge of your trust know to call your FMO? Because if they don't, then it's all lost.
Absolutely.
So if something were to happen and you're not ready at this point in time, they at least need to know who to call, and see if there's anything that is salvageable.
Yep. I want to go back to scalable for a second, because I think one of the important things that I forgot to mention on scalability, building for growth, designed with growth in mind, make sure that as you bring people into your business, whether they're administrative, whether they're agents, whatever their role is, your goal as a business owner, as a leader in your own company, should be to shorten the on-ramp to success for every new hire. And it goes back to all the things we've already talked about: having good systems, having it in a way that's trainable and teachable, being able to get them to where they need to be. But it also has to do with setting early expectations with a lot of achievable milestones. It is really important for new hires to understand that they're progressing and understand that they are hitting improvement and goals and getting the direction you want. And part of that is just setting really good expectations and milestones that can be rewarded, whether it's a pat on the back, some kind of financial incentive. That's up to you. There's a lot of ways to do it. But having actual written out milestones and achievements for someone's first 6 months with your operation, so that they know that they're on the right track. And if they're not, you can help them.
I was going to say that's another indication. If they're not, it allows you to find out really quickly if they're not hitting your expectations and milestones, opposed to just being like, yeah, I think they're working over there. I think I know what they do. Like,
Absolutely.
Especially in the first, 30 days, if not 90 days, making sure that they are on pace and they're hitting your expectations. Because we always joke about, not joke, it's true, but you spend more time with the people you work with than the people that you go home to. So making sure that you have picked someone out that is meeting your expectations, that allows you to work efficiently when you're there and you're not sitting there grumbling about that person in the background and having a conversation, sure. But that they also can hold your hand and help become a successful agency together. So I think if they're not enhancing what you do, then they're probably not the right person. But I think the expectations and actual written out milestones that you can track, without that, there's no way to figure that out.
Yeah, and there's not only is there just no way for someone to measure their own success as a new hire, you can't measure it, you can't establish what's going on with them. But I think the biggest thing too is, as you find someone who is valuable, who is hitting those milestones, you need to always be thinking about next steps for everyone in the company, including yourself, and especially yourself. And that's where it comes to learning to let go of tasks, learning to offload things and transfer responsibility, and learning how to do cross-training and just creating that kind of operational stability and operational diversity that's going to allow you to weather those market and regulatory changes, because sometimes we lose staff.
Yeah. Sometimes
due to reasons out of our control.
Yeah. There was a really good, well, it wasn't just a webinar, it was also a main stage topic at Medicarians, but Olivia Richardson, our office, did Agency to Empire. So if you want to learn more about this, I think that was another good thing that you can go watch if you want to kind of follow up from this as well.
Absolutely.
I think kind of to wrap up a little bit, we had 3 primary ways to scale. We talked about staff, agents, systems and processes, of course, go into the second one, and then products. So diversifying your agency as well.
Absolutely. And like I said earlier on, I think with products, understand how coal mining works is what I would tell you. You dig a hole straight down as deep as you can get until you find the coal seam, and then you spread out and start harvesting the coal. That's how you need to look at growing your agency too. You've got core products. You need to dig deep, make sure your core products are in place with all of your clients. And then once that happens, once you hit that coal seam, that operational stability,
I like that
then
visual.
you can start going out and scaling into new products. And I think that's very, very important for folks to look at. And of course, there's tons and tons of resources out there for business owners to help with a lot of these things. And this is all general business information, not specific to insurance agents. But I think that is, we get a little too much in our little insurance network and sphere of influence. And sometimes we forget that there are other businesses in the world, and they also have good ideas. So, connect with folks at your local Chamber of Commerce, not just to join and go to the meetings and all that fun stuff, but they will oftentimes have a lot of resources, maybe discounts with local services, things like that, and can also help connect you to things like the local Economic Development Institute or the Small Business Development Council, SBDC, in your area. You can also look at things like the Small Business Administration that can not only help out with things like operational loans, which is, of course, what they're well known for, but lots of training and resources that are available. Similarly, even your local college, your business school can have a lot of things. And a resource that I really like that not enough people talk about, in my opinion, is called SCORE, Service Corps of Retired Executives. And it is an amazing organization that has worksheets, programming, webinars, guided trainings, all sorts of things, all put together by retired executives from various companies. And it's an incredible source of information for anyone trying to start a business, grow a business, maintain a business. It's got some really cool resources to share.
Yeah, I think taking a look at your local community and seeing what's available. And then in addition to that, there's so many resources out there. You mentioned just a couple, Chalen. And I think in addition to that, finding a good mentor. Find your own personal board of directors. I would say if the advice they give you is something that you value and it helps enhance you, that person needs to be on your board of directors. If they tell you something and you brush it off and you're like, nah, they're probably not the right person to be on your board of directors. But they can be all over the place. A lot of the local resources that Chalen just mentioned, maybe you'll find someone there. I think, looking internally at your family is another good one. But finding that core influence that's going to help understand and help you grow is going to be so important. I've had agents so many times tell me like, oh yeah, I run my own business. So if anyone's sick or if, mom fell and I need to take her to the hospital, like it's always me because I run my own business. Having people that really value that you're running your own business for growth and scalability and making sure that you're creating something in the future that actually helps people. If that's your mentality, the people that are around you and your loved ones will also look at it like that and they won't think of you first. So I think part of it starts with you and how you're viewing your business, because that will trickle down and reflect across the board with your family and your friends as well.
Absolutely. And, with that mentorship, again, super critical. And, I'm a board of directors fan. There's really like 2 different ways to find a mentor. Some people like to have a single mentor, kind of that, like you mentioned, that core influencer, maybe someone that you want to emulate, someone that you think is where you want to be. And there's nothing wrong with that other than it gives you one perspective, and maybe not the best perspective, because a lot of people get there kind of by accident. It doesn't mean they didn't learn things along the way, but what I have found in the past is I look at a lot of very successful people and they were just abnormally good at one thing that got them where they are, and that's perfectly fine. But with the more board of directors method, you can go outside your industry. You can find people who are experts in all the different things that you're trying to improve on, whether you take the Zig Ziglar seven spoke wheel approach to the aspects of your life, or whether you're, man, I really need someone who can help me with my marketing. Man, I really need someone who can help me with my, leadership and management skills. you can find people that are good at those specific things rather than relying on one individual to provide advice for all of it.
There's also like so many books and podcasts that you could be, reading and keeping yourself sharp on. Tools for Titans is a good one. Just a whole bunch of different little snippets of different successful people. There's really good podcasts like How I Built This. I'm sure you listen to a whole bunch of fun ones as well, but there's so many different ways that just taking a look at, all the resources out there. Go to your local library. I'm sure the librarian would even help you if there's something that you want to brush up on or learn more about. But essentially, in the end, the thing that we both wanted to get across is that as you grow your business, it actually is a business. And the first step is recognizing that it's a business and treating it like that. And I think it starts up in your head, making sure that you believe that and you want it to be scalable. But essentially, as a business owner, there's so many things that land on your shoulders. We talked about being a janitor, being a marketer, being, HR. There's so many different directions that you'll end up getting pulled into making sure that you're scalable and that you also are sustainable and sellable down the road is all very, very important.
Yep. And, with all of that, I think the biggest thing is understanding that it's okay to ask for help. There's a lot of people out there that would love to help you. Last thing I would say before we wrap this one up, and thank you all so much for watching this great episode of Medicare Industry Insider, is just remember in your business, if you look at all the people that are in your life, all the people just remember that there are definitely way more people out there that want to see you be successful than want you to fail. So never, lose sight of that as you go looking for help, looking for next steps, looking for resources. And with that, absolutely want to wrap this up. Wish you all the success in the world as we go through this new year. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.